All right, so let's do Around the Horn, although that show just got canceled.
In terms of really demonstrating the linkage between the systems that in the past, I think looked really siloed, right? Between sales, marketing, service. They did a really masterful job sort of showing the combination of all of those, being able to use all of that in context with, the customer experience, even, external on a website. That to me was different than what we've seen in other conferences, and they did a great job taking real customers, like the Indiana Pacers or Ford Pro yesterday, and, like, giving us examples of this in production, not some demo database. That was the most impactful for me. We didn't hear anything new today in terms of product announcements, but it was a deeper dive and a new, set of customer examples that I think they did a masterful job with. And presentation style wise, I would give them a 10 out of 10.
The pacing of these keynotes has been really good, right? And getting people out on time and back into their schedule is actually not to be underestimated, honestly. I think concise keynotes show confidence, overblown keynotes show desperation. And Salesforce is a confident company right now. And we've been preaching this omni-channel gospel for years, and I think they finally have the technology to allow marketers to deliver on that and reach people in the ways they want to be reached. The one thing I would point out about the so-called tagline for the show around the end of no reply marketing, that actually raises the stakes, because if you're going to try to create a better interaction, a better experience for customers, you're also going to be held to that standard, right? So if I'm interacting with the bot and it doesn't friggin' understand me and it gets everything wrong, that's actually worse than just sending me a generic email. The technology has to deliver, but also marketers have to change. This blurring of the lines that's happening now and all the things that's happening, there's a human change element inside of organizations that I think we need to follow here.
Shout out to Bob Fagel for being here. Bob gives it a 9.5 out of 10.
And what was the missing 0.5? Did he need to see like another more stuffed animals at the end?
Well, no, he could be one of those people who just refuses to give Ken.
I wonder if you polled 100 people who were here this week, next week, and asked them what the end of no reply marketing is, if you would get the same answer. Because I think we heard it, but laying the step between what the end of no reply marketing is and what that future looks like could have been tied together a little more tightly. I'd also like to hear more about what this looks like for customers who are not looking at Agentforce right away. Like, what's the compelling reason for me to move to Next? And there are compelling reasons, but I think for those folks who are like, oh, not quite yet, on the AI front or on the Agentforce front, giving them a little bit more of here's what's compelling for you to go with Next today, I think would have made that Agentforce message even more interesting to them.
For the first time, at least from my standpoint, I actually think Agentforce is, a real technology that's meaningful. They've delivered a lot more than I expected them to have delivered, at least in the marketing cloud side of it. I wasn't even close to thinking it was advanced as it was. From the standpoint of the messaging, the theme that ran through, I think they began approaching, they implied the future of marketing in there, where marketing is going. They simplified it and dumbed it down around the conversations per se. A one-way correspondence becomes a two-way correspondence. There is something important in the idea of conversations, being how marketing ultimately works. I actually was very impressed with the demos and the actual uses of the product. That's one of the better ones I've seen in any conference this entire year. And with that said, I think Salesforce really needs to show what John actually said that it should be doing with the agents.
Bob came back.
I told you he's one of those people.
Do not give 10s unless absolute perfect.
I told you. Look,
I did enjoy this one even more than I did the one yesterday. Steve has had a great way of interacting with the folks that he brought on stage with him. I like the way that they had this casual conversation about the demo was kind of going on, and he would go back and forth between the conversation, and then now let's see what's going on. And it was just a really nice way of tying everything together. I thought Steve, the way he opened it up was a lot better than yesterday's opening. And I like the way that he actually explained, Mark, the differences between Marketing Cloud and Marketing Cloud Next. All the demos are really good, I think. The latter one might not have been as good as the first. You take the 2 days together, back to back, good to very good. I do appreciate when you start on time and when you end ahead of time. I hadn't thought about it the way that John did, but I think you're right. You don't have to put 10 gallons into a 5-gallon sack if you know what the good 5 gallons are, and you're able to explain it and illustrate it and walk through it in a timely but still entertaining way. I didn't feel like I was looking at the clock, waiting for it to end. So that says something. It's just good to hear agentic stuff from a marketing perspective versus some of the other things. And Peter was part of the reason why I enjoyed it, is just because we get kind of beat over the head with the service stuff from an agentic perspective. And it was really nice to hear something a little different. So maybe that added into why I appreciated it too.
Salesforce is really the first to really emphasize that, or marketing side. They're now technically they're the alpha, right? So now other people have to ship on to them. They were first, right? And first in a big way.
I think the one thing that we haven't really talked about that goes to the conversation about journey, though, and Bonnie mentioned it earlier before she came on, the idea that instead of having a website or a journey, the bucket of content that's micro content that is served up dynamically to whoever the customer is based on how much I know about them and what they're asking about dynamically. There's a lot to be said for that. And it doesn't feel like that far away from being able to do that.
The rate of change with customer data and customer needs is the rate of change is so great that it's almost like crazy to think that all of that's going to exist within your Salesforce data. You need to have more contextual information, because I don't think anybody can say, oh, my Salesforce data is, the say and end all of where journeys should start and end.
How about this? Instead of sweating journeys so much, build a friggin' community around your product or service. And then people are always connected. And wow, you actually get up-to-date information on what they're up to all the time, even as their plans change. It's called opt-in communities, people, and it's way more effective than trying to map out little road trips for people that you don't know what they're going to take anyway.